Tonight is Monday, August 13, 2018. This is the regular city council meeting for the city of St. Peter. It is 7 o'clock p.m. We will call the meeting to order. Will all please join in the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone should have a copy of the agenda in front of them. Are there any changes or questions about the agenda? If not, is there a motion for approval?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor of the agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. Next, we have the minutes from our last regular meeting from July 23rd, 2018. Those minutes appear on pages 3 through 5. Are there any changes to those minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of the minutes as written, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those minutes are approved. Next, we have the minutes of a special city council meeting that we had on August 6th. Are there any changes or corrections to those minutes? If not, is there a motion for to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of those minutes as written, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those minutes are approved. Next, we will address visitors. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the council on any agenda item? Seeing no one, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the council on any matter whatsoever? Seeing no one, we will move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda begins in detail on page 7 and concludes with the resolution on page 24. It includes the following licenses: a temporary on-sale liquor license to St. Peter Lions for Minnesota Square Park from September 8th, 2018 to September 9th, 2018. Temporary on-sale liquor license again for the St. Peter Ambassadors for parking lot number 5 for 9/27/18 to 9/29/18. A temporary dance license to the St. Peter Ambassadors for parking lot number 5 for 9/27/18 to 9/29/18. Following employee appointment: Joey Rush for billing clerk for $19.50 an hour. Plus the regular schedule of disbursements for July 19th, 2018 through August 8th, 2018. Are there any questions or comments on the consent agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, sorry, Steve.
I just have a question, Todd. I should have asked you before, but you know, on page 19, on the list of payables, there's a payment, looks like to Rivers Edge Hospital for PERA aid. What does that mean?
Let me look and see where it is here.
It's near the bottom, 14,375.
I'll have to get back to you, Steve. I don't know the exact answer for that one.
Okay.
So I'll be happy to get back to you and the rest of the council.
All right.
We do receive funds through PERA, and this may be a share of disbursement that's required to go back to them, or an overpayment or an assistance that's provided, but I'll check.
All right, thank you, sir.
Steve, did you want to withhold that until that time, or do you want to approve, or do we?
No, go ahead, that's fine.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please, Bart. Really? I thought we had. No. Thank you for catching that. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Any more questions? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Quaney.
Aye.
Mayor Beaton.
Aye.
Councilmember Carlin.
Aye.
Councilmember Graham.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Graham.
Aye.
Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Aye.
Consent agenda is approved. Next, we have unfinished business, and the first is the 2018 Rivers Edge Hospital Expansion Project flooring. And Mr. Rorich is here, and I know I should know your first name, but it's failing me. Dave.
Brad Smith.
Brad.
I look like Dave, it's okay.
Yeah, and Brad, what is your position?
Project manager for
the
McGough Construction.
hospital? Okay, all right. George, I think we know who you are, so we're okay.
Thank you.
What are you going to tell us, gentlemen?
I'll let Brad explain. We have a change to a previously approved bidding on flooring.
So back in April, when we had bids come in, we had two bids come in, Mickway Carpets and Sonus Interiors. Upon looking further later this summer, we found that there was an error when we were evaluating the bids from Rickway Carpets. They modified the bid form as it came in, and they had two different bid forms that added to a total of $868,000, not the $425,800 that you see here. That $425,800 was just one portion of the 2 pages that I caught. And as I go through these really quick, you look at my bid form that I supply, they fill it out, and I put the numbers down in a bid tabulation so that I can start comparing pretty quickly. Well, because of that added page, I missed that, and now it appears that they are not low, so we'd like to change to Sonus Interiors because it is over double their bid on what appeared to be the bid day.
Sonus's bid is not, Sonus's is at 505,700, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So that's why we'd like to change to them, so we don't have to incur $400,000 extra when they're not in fact the low bid.
Anything else to add, George? Okay, questions? Yeah.
Your presentation and the background were provided in the resolution we have doesn't say anything about how this new bid of $505,000 compares to what we had budgeted for that item, whether it's over, under, or by how much.
It is still under budget by about $70,000. I think it came in at a little over, there it is, 572, 187 was the EGMP budget in our estimate.
Any questions? So I'm trying to understand it. So they turned in this bid, but there's 2 pages to it, but you didn't check the second, or they didn't, or
So
how
my
did this
bid
work?
form, yeah, good question, sorry. My bid form is about 8 pages long. They've got to fill out a whole bunch of things. On the second page is where they put in their dollars for labor and dollars for materials, and then there's a total. They added and copied that page down one, so I only went to the second page. I caught that at the time. And then they just duplicated it again to break out the interior and exterior, or the renovations and the new construction. I flat out just missed the third page, to be honest. And then I only took out half. So it didn't draw a red flag because the bids were relatively close with the 425 and the 500. And then, so I didn't draw any red flags on my end. So I would have guessed that they would have been 800. So we only caught it when we were starting to get their breakouts for the contract.
So their initial bid was actually 800 and some thousand?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
This is a misrepresentation of what it actually was.
Right. But I mean, it's not like they didn't bid half of it. They bid it all, but we just didn't
We
catch
missed
the-
it, we misevaluated it, and
Okay.
they're not gonna drop their number to this for the entire project, so
Right.
they're holding with the 800.
Okay, I just was trying to get for some reason I thought they had missed a whole section or something.
No,
or other.
no.
Okay.
And Aaron McGough's part.
Any other questions? The resolution rescinding a bid award to Rickway Carpeting for flooring for Rivers Edge Hospital and Clinic Expansion project and awarding it to Sonus Interiors appears on page 26. Is there a motion for approval?
Move the resolution, Mr. Mayor.
Second it.
Any more questions, comments? Jeff?
I do have one. This doesn't in any way slow down the progress of the project, right? We're not going to be waiting any longer for the carpet. The carpet's still one of those last pieces to the puzzle.
Correct. We're okay with schedule right now.
Okay, great. So, anyone else? Call the roll, please.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye.
Councilmember Carlin.
Aye.
Councilmember Graham.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember French.
Aye.
Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Aye.
Councilmember Klum.
Aye.
Resolution is approved. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I hope it doesn't happen again. Next, we'll go to new business, and we have Mr. Moulton here to discuss the ADA transition plan engineering.
Yes, before you, you have a recommendation from staff to begin the process of a transition plan for the city of St. Peter. What this is we would hire Bolton and Mink to help us pull a plan together. We would start with the self-evaluation process where we would work with Bolton and Mink staff to take our GIS units and work with interns from MSU and Gustavus and pull data together throughout the city on our sidewalks, crosswalks, public property, park property, pedestrian landings in a variety of different areas that the public encounters. From that point there, we would download that information, put together a transition plan draft. We would then engage the public, talk with them about what we have found, compliance and non-compliance issues. Really just discuss an open dialogue with our public and find out what they see as issues that pertain to how we can meet ADA compliance. We would then take their feedback and input. We'd finalize the plan and we would submit that to MnDOT and the Federal Highway Association. As you can see, the cost is broken down into 3 different areas depending on the work description. So the self-evaluation process, which we would like to start this fall and go into late fall and winter, is about $15,000. The transition plan itself and developing that draft form would be about $7,800. Engaging the public, taking feedback, and then finalizing that transition plan would be about another $5,400. We'd be a little over $28,000 for the entire plan. It'd probably take about 6 months to complete this work. At that time, we'd come back to the council and do a report to you before submittal to the state and federal agencies. This is very dependent on us working with MSU and Gustavus and getting people to help us do this. They're always looking for internship work, and we'd like to get started on the process. And I'm available for questions.
Okay. Question? John?
We're making this effort and spending this money because we're really great guys and wanted to work on our ADA,
Because
or
it's a
this is something
requirement.
that's a requirement, okay?
Yes.
This is the state requirement, this is a federal
Federal.
requirement?
Yep.
Federal requirement.
Yep.
So we want to continue to receive federal dollars, and some of that is passed through the state.
Right.
For our streets and highways, this is something we have to do.
That's correct. And Washington Avenue Link is a great example of this, is we probably should have had this plan already in place. Moving forward, whether it be additional funds that we want to go after to try to improve highways that have grant funds tied to them or other funding issues tied to them, this is a requirement of that funding.
Pete, it seems to me, you know, that we talk about these and we go back and forth and we work on ADA things and so this is just more of a formality because we're doing ADA things all the time, are we not?
We are. We're always doing ADA things. We've done quite a bit of the city council has funded several intersections that we've taken on in the last probably 10 years. We're knocking those out little by little. And this isn't a requirement that says, okay, here's your plan, you have to knock things out like this or in this area. What it's doing is we're identifying our weaknesses and we want to put together a plan that would show them how we could possibly get there in those lengths, and we'll try to stay within the boundaries of the requirement of the plan law.
Okay. Susie?
Just a little more clarification. I don't think I heard this. So just to emphasize again, we have in recent months talked about ADA initiatives in our downtown and working with commercial businesses. This is different. This is an assessment of public facilities, city-owned
Right.
facilities. Which I know, I'm just saying if people are listening at home and they're thinking, gosh, haven't we worked with the chamber? Haven't we done assessments of all those business? This is not talking about those private spaces. This is actually talking about the city infrastructure
spaces.
specifically.
Yep.
So just in case anyone at home isn't clear about that.
Right.
And thus, these are issues that we, the city alone, is responsible for fixing these things, as opposed to some of those known issues that we have working with commercial facilities where we're trying to engage with those business owners or building owners. These are issues that the city is ultimately obligated to take care of.
Correct.
Steve?
Pete, I have 2 questions. When we talk about public property, would that be inclusive of all the sidewalks in the city?
No, it would be more of the radius areas of intersections. If you look at your assessment policy and some of the things that we do, we're responsible for those areas. Unless Mr. Domras has additional information, I believe that the public sidewalks there would be part of the home ownership, and we enforce that rule and those laws by ordinance.
And then another question, is it possible that once we identify issues, the public issues, that there would be any potential for additional funding down the road?
That I'm not positive with.
Okay.
We would certainly look into those options
right.
if available.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff?
One question I would have with doing this is, assuming that there is a lot, or maybe there's just a little bit in the community that we need to address, I guess I would like to know how much exactly it would cost to meet those needs. And so as a part of this report, could there be some sort of a identified or a mark of how much money it would cost total for all of these projects that are identified as part of this process?
Certainly. Yep.
So we kind of have an idea of how much capital is involved with this.
Right, and how we would get there if we set parameters on how much we can spend and correct during a certain time.
Yep. Susan?
I know I've brought this up before, and I know it's somewhat out of our hands, but once again, there are still crosswalks on 169 where the signs are illegible, and they've been that way for a year plus. I understand that the MnDOT is responsible for those, but we've been waiting over a year, and there are crosswalk signs that are completely illegible. So when we're talking about ADA issues, it sure would be nice if we can continue to push whatever entity is responsible and work on fixing those, because it's been a long time.
Right, we have made MnDOT aware of that. They are aware of the situation. They've also had staff in the last few weeks down doing exactly the same thing that we're proposing here.
Sure.
Anyone else? John?
Part of this requirement from the state and federal government is what we call public involvement. What are we intending to do to involve the public to get their feedback on all this?
Once we have a draft plan together, John, our proposal would be to have a open house, for lack of a better term, invite the public to come and comment on the plan. Usually it'd be 2 to 3 weeks after we put a draft plan available at City Hall and at public places, so they can read that, review the information. We'd probably do a presentation with the findings, and then allow the public to give us some feedback, whether it's written, verbal, or electronic.
While this project is intended to involve only city-owned properties, if we were to get public feedback on ADA issues in general, we would certainly be open and welcome to that. And be
Certainly.
making notes, jotting these things down, and bringing
Right,
that back
it's
to
a
the council
funding-
also.
It's a funding.
Well, no, I
mechanism,
mean,
so-
just general issues to
Yep.
talk about.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Todd?
Yeah, I think the council has spent a tremendous amount of time, effort, and resources on improving ADA accessibility throughout the community. I don't want to put words in Councilmember Graham's mouth, but I think he has expressed that on multiple occasions. And while he might not be the ultimate authority in that, he certainly brings a perspective that the rest of us don't. I would mention, just because it's a requirement, and you're required to do this, doesn't mean you've done wrong. You've done a lot of really good work in this area. And sometimes we are trying to check off the box for additional work. And as we do a self-analysis, and if we do find some weak spots, then that's the point at which you make decisions and we try and continue to move forward. But you've done a tremendous amount of work over the last year, 10 years, 15 years in this area.
And I imagine this is not an issue, I don't think there will ever be a day when we can announce that we've brought the entire city into complete ADA compliance. There's a lifespan to all of these sidewalks and curbs and everything else, and so probably this will be ongoing forever. Once we address the critical issues here, there will be maintenance over time and so forth. So I don't at all see this as a negative. This is bringing to light issues that we need to know about so we can get them on the list and start working our way through them once they're prioritized.
A great example of that is truncated domes. The council's talked about truncated domes on many occasions, and the standards for what is allowable have changed 3 or 4 times over the last 10, 12 years, something like that. So anyway, yeah, we have to continue to work. This is one of the ways that we develop a list and work towards a better solution.
Any other questions or comments? Jeff?
I guess to be clear, this does not include neighborhoods where there are no sidewalks.
I guess I don't understand your question.
So there are some neighborhoods in the community that do not have sidewalks that are arguably, public right away. It would be arguably public
Right, it
land.
would just address the areas that are existing sidewalks and then where we propose. So we'd have a plan on if we do put sidewalk in there, how would it look, what would happen here, and
So that would go off of the
Right.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Anyone else? The resolution authorizing development of the American with Disabilities Act transition plan for the city right-of-way appears on page 32. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Garland.
Aye.
Councilmember Graham.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Graham.
Aye.
Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Aye.
Councilmember Quinn.
Aye.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye. Resolution is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Next up, we have a street vacation request of Lincoln Drive, and Mr. Willie is here.
I think I'm in stereo here. Mayor Zeman, members of the City Council, you've received a petition from Independent School District 508 as executed by their Superintendent Paul Peterson, seeking the vacation of Lincoln Drive lying between the right-of-way of Broadway Avenue and the right-of-way of West Gray Street. Essentially, Lincoln Drive as it exists within the high school or the middle school campus. I will note that the school district has paid the appropriate fee that you have established. Over the last year, the school had some experience as the property was repurposed from the high school to the middle school. And they've identified some operational challenges due to that transition and the previous circulation for student pickup and drop-off. They are proposing to alter the circulation in an attempt to improve the safety of the students and the traveling public as well as the efficiency of the operation. And so they have engaged ISG engineers or ISGs to prepare a plan for altering the circulation to segregate the bus traffic from the passenger vehicle traffic. And that is the plan that you have in front of you today. To accomplish the plan, it would be most appropriate to provide for the vacation of the right-of-way then, as we have spoken about. All of the easements would be maintained and for the repair and the maintenance of both the public and the private easements. If you will look at the overhead picture that has the alteration on it, you will notice that the bus traffic will enter the property off of Broadway Avenue, and then as it got to the building, it would then be segregated from the passenger traffic. So within the school building, that will be limited to school bus traffic. Passenger vehicles wanting to drop off students would enter off of Broadway Avenue and then take a right into the southernmost entrance to the parking lot, circulate through the parking lot, drop off their students, re-enter what would be former Lincoln Drive, and then exit back onto Broadway. Buses would not be accessing the site off of West Grace, but again, passenger vehicles would have an opportunity to use that as a drop-off. Again, they would enter the site. They would then access the northernmost driveway on that side, circulate within after the drop-off, and exit back onto what would be the vacated Lincoln Drive to ultimately provide egress onto West Grace Street. The school feels that segregating that bus traffic from the passenger traffic will certainly increase the safety as they have observed over the last school year. There was a public hearing that was held by the Planning Commission following posted, published, and mailed notices prescribed by statute. Most of the public comment regarding the project was not necessarily related to the vacation of Lincoln Drive, but questions as to alternative drop-off points, including what I would say would be the office parking lot, or some even at the football field parking lot. The Planning Commission then ultimately passed a resolution recommending that you provide for the vacation as petitioned. It did have a couple caveats, and I would note that Police Chief Peters and Public Works Director would propose to monitor the traffic circulation after the alteration to see if any future signage or other restrictions would be appropriate or necessary. Mr. Mayor, I'd answer any questions that you or members of the council might have.
Questions? Susie?
I'm sure that the school district has considered all the different alternatives, but I guess I just have one question or opportunity, I'm not quite sure. There is the smaller parking lot that is just below what's currently Lincoln, off to the side of the tennis courts. Is that large enough to allow for the vehicular traffic to do drop-offs in that point?
They're closing
Just
there,
too
aren't they?
small?
I
Okay.
believe they're looking to discontinue that parking
Altogether, okay. I see the spot where the buses are trying to pull straight through and the exiting drop-off cars have to cut amongst the buses, and so I was trying to imagine if there are any scenarios that reduced that intersection.
I think
Because
the
the-
expectation is they'll be doing a zipper merge in doing this, and I believe that they'll have monitors out there
Sure.
at the beginning.
Of course, and I, like I said, I imagine they've considered all the possible alternatives, but I just thought I would ask because it seems like that lower lot is sort of underutilized a little bit, so if they do something else
I
with it,
forgot
that's
it was
fine.
even there
I
until
know.
I saw it on the map.
Yeah. All right, that's all.
Anyone else? Steve?
Russell, I just have one question. What is a speed table with a delineator? What is that?
Is that in my report?
Stump the quiz, okay?
Oh, I'd never heard of such a thing.
I don't know, it's on the map, and it's
I-
just confusing me.
Imagine it's some sort of demarcation at that point to allow the necessary vehicles through, but to discourage other vehicles from driving
Essentially, it's
past
going to
it.
be a hyper speed bump type of structure,
Right,
so it'll
yeah.
be very uncomfortable for a passenger vehicle to follow, staying in the right-hand lane. So, yeah, I didn't realize that that was the terminology for it.
Okay, so, I mean, it looks like it's almost, is it on the road?
Yes.
Or, okay, because see, the hash marks are on the east side of the sidewalk, that's why I'm confused.
It would stick out from the sidewalk about the school into that lane, into that
Okay,
driving lane.
all
So
right.
buses would have to enter off the left hand, and there would be
Okay.
no parking that's shown there in the current situation. Those are, I believe, student cars from last year or the year
Okay.
before that.
All right.
Anyone
Okay.
else? Jeff?
So this really takes care of 1 hour total of the school day, half hour before school, half hour after school. But what about like after-school activities and things like that? Is there still going to allow for parking on Lincoln Drive, the
No.
way those cars are now?
No, the parking will be in those two parking lots where the circulation would occur, the office parking lot and the football field parking lot. The majority of that traffic is, of course, about 5:30 or after, so it would not be conflicting with the school drop-off or pickup.
Okay. Well, we had previously talked about handicap folks and accessibility. I just want to make sure that there's an appropriate amount of parking for grandmothers and grandfathers and other folks with disability issues.
I have no doubt that ISG has provided a design that meets all of the appropriate requirements for ADA.
Okay.
Anyone else? John?
Once the street is vacated, the ownership of the property passes to the school district.
Yes, sir.
So while they may do this plan this year, they can do a different plan next year, and we have no say in it.
That
The
would be
police
correct.
chief may have comments about, and Public Works about traffic entering and leaving and the appropriate signage and all. But what the school district chooses to do on their property is the school district's business. We have no say in it whatsoever. Am I correct?
As long as it does not impact their egress on Gray Street or Broadway in a diverse situation to
Yes.
your right-of-way and the roadway that you're using.
Yes,
This
sir.
roadway has been used essentially as a driveway for the high school at
Mm-hmm.
that time for multiple decades.
So the police department and Public Works may have a say on the entrance and exiting onto Broadway and onto Gray Street. But
Correct.
Other than that, what happens in between, that's the school district's business.
That is
They
correct.
can do anything they want. In the resolution, it doesn't really say anywhere that this property, I'm sorry, that this property becomes owned by the school district.
Yeah, that's not necessary, that's just common practice at the courthouse. Whoever owns property on both sides, if it had an alternative owner on the east side, then it would be split in
Well,
half.
why don't we put in a whereas that says the school district owns property on both sides, and according to state statute, once the vacation takes effect, school district owns this property.
Why do we have to do that?
Because this is an unusual situation where there's only one.
I mean, if,
Owner
like
for a
Russ just said,
vacation.
if both sides, whoever owns, split it, then what difference does it make?
Well,
I don't see the need, but,
if we're vacating an alley, we would certainly list all the property owners. But
If I could provide clarification, it is certainly at the pleasure of the council whether you want to modify the resolution. As Russ articulated, under the law, you don't need to. If we were in the position of vacating an alley, which you've done in the past, typically what you've seen are different owners on either side of the alley, which is a different situation than you see here where it's unified property ownership on both sides of this roadway. But it certainly is the pleasure of the council.
So if you want to, when we get to it, John, if you want to add that to it.
I was suggesting that it be added now, was, okay.
Well, when we come to the resolution. Anybody else have any other questions?
I don't.
I have one, maybe it's more for you or Todd or for Pete. What kind of cost savings are we going to see for the city aspect?
I don't know that we can calculate that out on a budget-by-budget basis, but you have spent money there in fixing, repairing, seal coating, striping, fixing curb lines, doing all those kind of things over the
Snow
years.
removal?
Snow removal, sure.
Minor snow.
Yeah. They do a lot of that on their own because
Do
of the
they?
timeline that they're in.
Right.
So,
Just kind of curious.
yeah, if there is a financial impact
Right.
going forward.
But the city's been suggesting it was in the school district's best interest to assume ownership of this for,
2 decades.
okay, decades, yes, a long time. And it's the school district's prerogative to choose now to do it instead of previously. So now they're doing it.
Okay, any other questions or comments? The resolution vacating Lincoln Drive right-of-way lying between Broadway and Grace as petitioned by the school board, Independent School District 508, appears on page 36. Is there a motion for approval?
I'll move the resolution inserting a whereas. It says, state statute says that the ownership passes to the adjacent property owners, and there's only one adjacent property owner, so the school district will be in ownership of this vacated property.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second?
Any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Graham,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Graham,
Aye.
Councilmember Piper,
Aye.
Member Corn,
Aye.
Mayor Zimmerman,
Aye.
Councilmember Tyler.
Aye.
Resolution passes. Next up, that concludes our new business. Next up, we have reports, and the first thing that I have tonight is a proclamation for American Legion Month, and it says, whereas the American Legion organization is celebrating 100 years of service to veterans and the communities in which they are located, and whereas the American Legion has been instrumental in supporting the Boy Scouts of America, the American Heart Association, American Legion Baseball Program, and the American Legion Child Welfare Foundation, and whereas American Legion Post Number 37 in St. Peter sponsors the St. Peter Area Trap Shooting Team, VA Veterans Homes, St. Peter Fire Department, high school scholarship programs, and many other programs that benefit the community. And whereas members of American Legion Post Number 37 have also served as color guard for numerous parades, conventions, and civic events, and have served as honor guard for deceased veterans from St. Peter since the end of World War II. Now therefore I, Charles Zeman, Mayor of the City of St. Peter, Minnesota, do hereby proclaim August 2018 as American Legion Month in the city, and hereby do encourage all residents of the community to express their appreciation for the service and sacrifice of all American Legion members and for the benefits of the American Legion brings to our community, in witness thereof. Jerry, I know you remember.
No, I'm not.
Oh, yeah, I thought you were.
No, I am not. I cannot be until Congress changes it.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought I was gonna ask you what the first anniversary was like. Anyway, other things, last Tuesday, Night to Unite, saw a few council members there. The times I've been there, I don't think there was a bigger crowd than this one, the last Tuesday. Very well attended, and I told somebody, it probably is the youngest average age of an event that I go to, you know, because lots and lots of kids. On Saturday, I was asked to do a little welcome for the Redmond State Convention, which was held at the local Redmond Club. And this is not a big crowd, but a nice crowd and very friendly group of people. And I guess the county fair seemed to be well attended and successful. I know Ed's a board member, if you can
It was
verify that, I think.
sold out turnout for the demo both nights,
Yeah.
and we had an excellent carnival, and
Yep.
all the volunteers did a wonderful job, and it was the first year I was involved in helping running it, and it's a lot of work.
Yep. So we appreciate that, and like I say, everything that everyone does for the community. That is all I have, Todd.
Mayor members, I know I have on the board here a goal session discussion related to schedule. Actually, what I was hoping to do was provide a report on the goal session. I don't have the written report done, and so if you would do me the favor of allowing me to provide that in your workshop on Monday, I will have it completed at that time. I agree with the mayor and the points on Night to Unite, just a fantastic crowd, all kinds of different people that were there. I also want to mention for you to get on your calendars, potentially the RETA annual meeting is here at Gustavus on September 25th. I know a number of you have been to that in the past, and so it's scheduled. So if you want to get that on your calendars now, I know how you fill up pretty quickly. That's usually an evening event, and so we'll get you some more information as that comes a little bit closer, but that is scheduled for, again, here at Gustavus, just as it has been the last couple of years. I can't remember exactly how many years, but nice event. Folks from all over our region, Mankato and the other RETA community members attend that.
Approximately what time of day is that?
It'll be an evening event, so my recollection is it probably starts about 6-ish, maybe it's 5:30-ish. There's usually a presentation, there's food involved, and some mixing time.
I believe last year, Mr. Kwame, didn't you make the presentation, or was that 2 years ago
John did.
already?
Nope, I made the presentation.
Okay. Are you doing it again?
I hope not.
All right,
It was well-received, as I recall, John.
It was well received, yes it was.
good.
Yeah. So again, that on your calendar. And I also wanted to mention, Shannon had been here for a number of meetings to discuss hospital financing. And so there was a date set at around the 9th or 10th, and wanted to just let you know that that had been completed on the 10th. So the interim financing, part of it is interim financing, part of it is long-term financing for the hospital has been completed as per your discussion at those previous meetings. But wanted to let you know, it's not like fireworks go off or anything like that for that event, but thought you should have a follow-up and we should close the circle on that information for you. Mr. Mayor, I think that's all I have for you tonight.
Anyone else have anything to add? Steve?
Todd, what does RETA represent? What does that acronym mean?
Regional Economic Development Alliance.
And what does that organization do for the city of St. Peter?
So it does a number of things, but its primary goal is to provide data and do research and represent our region for industrial placement. So as we're out looking for industries to come to our community, part of their job is to help us make sure that we are matching appropriately. And let me use an example that we use often. If there's an industry that's interested in coming to St. Peter and they require rail service, train service, we should probably not spend resources trying to attract them because, as many of you know, there's not a railroad in St. Peter to provide service. But it might be fantastic if they go to North Mankato because, as we know, if they employ 100 people, 25 of those people are likely to come from the St. Peter area. And so as we all do well, we all do well.
Okay.
And again, focused primarily on industrial.
All right, thank you.
Jeff?
I'd like to take a couple of minutes to talk about the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities meeting that was on the 24th and 25th of July. That was held in Mankato at the Verizon Wireless Center, but also one of the days was we were host. And so folks from 90 different communities came to St. Peter to learn a little bit about what we're doing in terms of childcare, and was well received. A lot of folks had questions. A lot of folks took away some information that are going to help their communities. They really expressed an interest in our community center, how we developed it, how we funded it, and what it means for our community. And they were really interested in our downtown. Of course, we spent some time downtown that day as well, going to the art center, taking in some of the shops and that sort of thing. In the end, I think that was very well received. Of the 90 communities that attended the event, I thought it was just top of mind for the rest of the meeting. And I've actually had some feedback since from some folks that have said that it was really impactful to see what our community is doing. And they were going to continue to contact us in the future to see how they can kind of implement some of those strategies in their own communities.
We have had a number of follow-up calls, and I know the folks from SPC3, Brad DeVos in particular, has had a number of calls from communities about some of his learned expertise related to that daycare. It's wonderful to be able to show off a little bit.
Absolutely. And thanks for bringing that up. I want to thank, again, Councilor Carlin for sitting in for me for that day. I could not be there, and for doing the welcome and presentation.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Anyone else have anything to add? Susie?
There are community elections tomorrow for the primaries. I know that there are a few individuals here who might not be the ones to bring that up, but
That's tomorrow?
but I realize that by the time people are watching this, I don't know, what time does it run tomorrow?
Yeah, it's probably mostly too late.
Well, shoot. Well, I sure hope that you all went out and voted. And if you didn't, you'll have a chance to vote in the full election in November. So start paying attention now if you're not already, and please vote when you have the opportunity to do so. Thank you.
Yes. Anyone else? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move adjournment, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
All in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? We are adjourned.
Pete, can I show you something on this?